Good afternoon, welcome. Thank you for joining us. This is the Marion City Council work session for Tuesday, August 6, 2019. We have several items that are started for discussion under administrative services under consent agenda. Prior to those, is there any other item that's not starred anyone wants to discuss? If not, we'll move on to number 5.
So number 5 is a resolution for financial support of the Woodland Legacy Symposium. That is an annual event put on by Trees Forever, and for the last several years, Marion has been a supporter of that, and as you can see with past resolutions, supported it in the amount of $7,500. This was budgeted again out of Urban Forest Utility for the same amount, and so this is what council is considering today. With that sponsorship comes 6 free registrations, so if any of you are interested in attending this event, all the information for it is included in the memo, and just let Ann in our office know.
Okay. Any questions on that? If anyone is able to go, I'd encourage you to go. I did attend last year, had the chance to speak also, and it's a very informative symposium that's attended by people from the region, and if you have time and are able to attend, I would encourage you to do so. Okay.
Mike, did you have anything you wanted to add on
Mike,
this one?
anything?
Okay.
Okay. Thank you. Number 6.
So the next one is a set date for a public hearing for an urban renewal plan amendment for the Collins Road urban renewal area. What we have been doing with these for the past year or so has been waiting to accumulate several memorandums of understanding and then doing the amendment, which allows for actual expenditures out of the district all at one time, because it is a bit of an involved process now with the public hearing, the consultation meetings that need to occur with the taxing authorities, and then setting the dates for everything in between. So what this amendment is proposing to do is several things. The first is to add property. It has been a development agreement already approved by council in late 2018 for Eco-Lips, which is on 44th Street. We were just off by one parcel, so this is including that additional parcel into the overall district. New project authorizations, there are 3 of them. All 3 of these already have approved memorandums of understanding by the City Council, so all 3 of these exactly match what those MOUs are. 2 of them are for GLD. Those have been split into 2. It was originally just one MOU. They've split it into 2 separate projects, same cap, just 2 multi-tenant facilities with that $1.2 million cap. And those are appearing later in the actual agenda. And the third is for the TWG Iowa Apartment Partners project. It's that 50-unit project on 5th Avenue. And that has a cap of $400,000. So with all of those, we do have the ability to recoup any legal fees and any administrative fees that we have in association with this urban renewal plan amendment, and so we're giving ourselves authority to repay ourselves for those fees in an amount not to exceed $22,500. And then the last thing that this urban renewal amendment does is allow for any kind of public improvements out of the capacity in that district. And so the one that is being proposed here is the Marion Aircom Park Sanitary Sewer Extension Project. And because it's not in the CIP, it's being proposed as part of this amendment. And let Lon talk about this one, if that's okay.
Yeah, the council may recall last fall we submitted an application to USDA Rural Development for a program that they have that will fund improvements out into areas that are served by rural electric cooperatives. It's not something that we can use in very extensive areas of the community, but essentially what they will do is to give the community a 10-year 0% loan, and then as the community pays that loan back, the money is retained by by the REC to be used to capitalize a business revolving loan fund. So they access the money through SIPCO, it's granted to Lynn REC, and then we would use the proceeds to extend a sanitary sewer line down parallel to the Grantwood Trail past the airport and up the east side of the airport to serve Marion Aircom Park. That lets us get about 85 acres in that area served with gravity sewer and allows us to then serve, have the area develop for future business use. It's zoned as commercial. They do plan on having the area develop out in 1 and 2 acre lots, which are the ones that we've identified as having short supply in the community, and lets us continue to expand our business presence east of the airport.
Okay, yes.
Question. Do we need any of this to help with the Enterprise Park, or is that already fully sewered? Is this just only east?
This is actually taking the line on the south side that serves the Enterprise Center and bringing it further to the east.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you.
I will say that one change that this allows us to make is originally we had reserved some property in cooperation with the Enterprise Center to go through the airport property and serve that area to the east. Now that we're able to come in through the south and come up from the south side, we may be able to abandon that.
Any other questions, issues? Okay.
And so the next item just relates to what I just went over. It's the actual development agreement for the apartment project by TWG. Right now, the assessed value is about $170,000, and it's expected to go up to about $2.1 million. So it'll be a significant increase on that property. Did you have any specific questions in addition to that? There is already an MOU existing on this project.
Okay. So if the MOU, so this is the actual development agreement.
Correct, yep.
All right. No questions? Okay, the next page under engineering, well, the entire engineering section and community development, nothing is starred for discussion. Is there anything anyone would like to discuss?
First time ever.
None?
That's just that section, though.
Yeah.
Okay. On to the next section under administrative services. There are 2 items that are starred, which have already been discussed a little bit, but is there more discussion on that, or?
No, just the same as the last one. These
Okay.
are just the development agreements associated with the actual urban renewal plan amendment.
Okay. Any discussion or specific questions on those? Okay. The rest of that page, nothing is marked for discussion. Any item that anyone would like to discuss in particular? Moving on to page 6 then. There are a number of items under administrative services under the regular agenda. Prior to those, there are items also on that page. If anyone wants to discuss any of them, yes, Ms. Goodell.
Yeah, I have a question, and you might not have the answer now, but if you could bring it for Thursday regarding item number 2, the legal service agreement adjustments. I was just curious, given our internal compensation study, if the 2.5% increase for this hourly rate is it annual? Is it on par with our peer cities? How do we determine this? How does this come to be?
Generally, what we will do is for those type of services, provide about the equivalent of the average for the pay-for-performance increases that were awarded for the organization. In this case, it's actually a bit below that. It was just a negotiated number with legal.
Okay, and so we do it every year, kind of coinciding then with the staff, you're saying?
Yeah, this contract actually is a fiscal year contract, so the staff changes take place in April, and then this one follows it several months later.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, then we'll move on to number 3.
Number 3 is the final resolution for the General Obligation Urban Renewal Series 2019D. This is the issuance for $6.41 million for the YMCA. So this is the final action that City Council would take, and I will report out that Moody's Investors Service did assign a AA1 rating to this series, and Tiana will be here on Thursday to present the bids.
Is that pretty clear?
Mhm.
Questions? Okay, number 4.
Number 4 is the final capital contribution payment to YMCA. I figured since we were making the final action on the GO bond series, it would be efficient to go ahead and take final action on payment. So upon approval of this resolution, I would be asking the YMCA for ACH information so that we can get that lined up for when we close on the bonds, and the bonds are proposed to close at the end of August. I will say I did reach out to Bob Carlson, and he said that the YMCA is putting the finishing touches on their financing agreement, and they're hoping to start moving ground soon.
Okay, any questions? Was that, is that advisable to deliver the funds before they start?
We wouldn't actually be delivering the funds until we actually have the funds. This
Right.
is just taking action on the approval.
Okay,
So that I'm approved to do it and I don't have to put it on another agenda. So, I mean, I could, if you wanted to, put it on the next agenda, or I could wait and put it on this first meeting in September, and then we'd hold the funds that we receive at the end of August until approval in September.
Yeah, I think that's the question is, so the funds, if we follow this schedule, when is the estimated date for the funds to be dispersed?
It would be, our bond closing date is August 28th. So if you approve this resolution now, if we close on August 28th, I would be able to disperse the funds any date after August 28th.
Yeah, based on my understanding also and having conversations with Bob Carlson, the rest of the financing should be in place prior to that date. So they should have everything signed, sealed, and delivered prior to 8/28. If it is not, then we may want to have a special meeting to consider that. But based upon everything I'm hearing and my understanding is that this, once it was approved a few weeks ago, allowed them to get into the arrangements and finalize the agreements with the banks to move things so that that'll be finished mid-August.
Sure.
So that date,
Would it,
this schedule would follow up, would fit in with that.
and I have no reason to doubt that. Would there be any harm in just saying, approving the final capital contribution, subject to commencement of construction? I mean,
Well, or seeing the agreement or the Y finalizing their end loan agreement. That's really what once that's in place, then construction can start. Now, it still may take a little time for them to get everybody together, but that's really the piece. Once that end loan agreement is in place with the bank, then that's complete green light to go ahead and dig dirt. I want it as soon as possible, but that's the one piece I think is essential.
or does having this resolution, help them finalize all their loan agreements?
The firmness of the city's contribution was one of the loan conditions. They needed to have certainty that the city was going to proceed with that financing. But in light of your concerns, Mayor, my suggestion would be is to add language to the resolution that simply says subject to proof of financing. That way the Y would be able to show that they've got their financing secured, and we would then not release any dollars until they show us they've got the financing to proceed with the project.
That makes sense.
I think that's prudent. Yeah. Okay. Everyone okay with that? Other questions on that one? Okay, number 5.
Number 5 is a resolution. It's kind of a housekeeping item. It is a reimbursement resolution for Irish Drive. And the reason we do this, we do have $2.1 million for the fire station and another 500-ish thousand from local option sales tax. So from a cash flow standpoint, we're not needing to do a financing right now. But in order for us to reimburse ourselves via TIF to pay for this project, the Irish Drive extension piece, we would need to do an urban renewal bond series. And so we're planning on doing that in January when we would be doing the rest of the fire station. It's kind of hard to explain, but it's kind of a legal procedural.
Essentially what it allows us to do is it allows us to use working capital to pay for the project ahead of time and then reimburse ourselves our working capital from future bond proceeds, to try to provide some clarity.
Okay, everyone comfortable with that?
And just for the amount, because I don't believe I included the amount in the resolution, we have up to $750,000 in the resolution.
Okay, any questions? Okay, number 6.
Number 6 is a memorandum of understanding with Tomaso's. It is for the project that was presented at the last council meeting, and during that meeting, council directed staff to negotiate an MOU with this applicant. What's being proposed is a 2-story building with 2 apartments on top and the restaurant on the main floor. It looks like the assessed value estimate is going to go from about $220,000 to about $600,000. What's being requested is just under $50,000 to assist with site preparation, and it'll be it'll fully come out of the expected increased assessed value on the property itself. Do you have any questions about this project?
Questions, comments, concerns? Okay. On to page 7, there are a couple more items that are not marked for discussion under administrative services, if anyone has questions on those. If not, we'll move on to public services. Mr. Miller?
Your Honor, Counsel, thank you. First item starred, number 1, that's a public hearing regarding the precast concrete package, and item 2 is the resolution awarding those bids. We went out and we received 3 bids back for the precast concrete package. Engineering estimate was just over $2.2 million. We budgeted about $2.5 million for this portion of the project. Mid-States Concrete out of Beloit, Illinois was the low bid. They came in just under $2 million. The bids were very close, as you can see, and with that bid, we're about $300,000 under the engineering estimate. So staff is recommending awarding those bids. Upon approval of the contract, they are required to deliver the precast by February 14th of next year. It'll take them about 2 weeks to set it. Liquidated damages are programmed at $500 per day. Any questions about that?
Questions? None? Yes, sir.
Are you, have you seen Mid-States work then? Are you
Yes,
comfortable?
they're pretty prevalent around eastern Iowa. They're one of the bigger ones. We knew there were 2 companies that could do this. Other one was Wells they're out of Minnesota, but we're very familiar with Mid-States. We've actually been working with them since last year on this project. And so we've worked with them and Wells as we develop the envelope for the building. So very familiar with their work.
It's exciting to see those bids come in. Laura, we need a little relief, don't we? Thank you.
$1 million bid as a mayor.
Okay. No further questions on that? Okay, number 3.
Number 3, this is a public hearing regarding the metal building systems package. We had 3 bidders for this one as well. And Zydig Construction was a low bid, just over, I'd say $1.457 million. Very close bids here again. They were just over the engineering's estimate. The engineering's estimate was 1.320 million, but however, we budgeted about 1.5 million for this portion of the project. So we're under bid, a little bit above the engineering cost. We knew it was going to get a little interesting when we got into this package. Steel prices have been jumping all over the place. We're actually happy to get this one done. We didn't know where it would come in at. So if you're familiar with their work, they're the ones that actually did Legacy out there. They did their expansion, so we were happy to see them get this bid, and staff is recommending moving forward with this contractor.
Ryan, just for clarity, you were not proposing to do the alternate, but you might want to just let the council know what that was.
You'll see these alternates in here, and we're trying to get pricing on different facets of the building. The alternate is crane girders. This building was designed to house overhead cranes throughout the whole facility. We're not going to do that at this time. We think we can do that later at a cheaper price. So basically right here, that's the low bid. Out of all these bids, that's the base bid.
Can you just refresh our memory real quick? Part of this was steel, part of it was concrete, is that right?
That is correct. If you remember, we came to council. The roof of the main facility, that's a steel roof. So if you go into like Menards or places like that, that's what they call a truss system.
Okay, very good.
And so the roof, that's the steel part of the building, and they'll be supported with columns and whatnot. The rest of the building will be precast walls. And the office here, that's a precast roof. It's a central facility classification, and we do have a storm shelter in there. So the steel part of this portion is just for the shop right here. It's for the roof system and the support columns.
Thank you for that clarification.
Okay, other questions on that? Number 5.
Okay, number 5, public hearing regarding the concrete foundation package. We only got 2 bids back from this. We did have 5 we didn't expect to get back. Delaney Concrete was the low bid, just over $400,000. The engineer's estimate was, again, $390,000. We had about $440,000 budgeted for this. So we're still under budget, but a little over the engineering's estimate. Staff is recommending awarding the bid to Delaney Concrete. Upon approval of the contract, they'll start within a week, and they have until October 24th to get all the footings installed. So liquidated damages are $300 per day beyond that.
Questions? Yes, sir.
Actually, I'm going to jump back. Out of curiosity, what is your sidewall height for the concrete walls?
30 foot. 30 foot on the main walls.
Main? What do you have now? How's that compared to what you have now?
We have 16-foot high sidewall heights, and then we have a 212 pitch, which brings it up, I think, just over 32 feet.
Okay.
With the truss system in the building, we'll be about 25 feet. With that allows us to get our trucks to dump and to maintain them that way.
Okay.
So 30 foot, and our roof is about 25 foot. It comes down, and then with the trusses, I think that's about where they're at. So.
Okay, thanks.
Right, are those a tilled-up wall or?
They're a insulated precast wall. They pour them in a factory, and then they ship them out here. And then everything's tilted up with a crane, reinforced. What's amazing is that they can have the whole building up in about 14 days. They go up pretty quick.
Thank you.
Seriously.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Like building blocks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's pretty quick. And they're very durable. There's about 5 inches of insulation in the center, and then you got 3 inches of concrete on the outside. So, yeah.
Okay. Any questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Under public safety, there are 3 items on page 7 that are not marked. If anyone would like to discuss those. There are none, then we will proceed to parks. We have 1 item under parks.
Under Parks
Ellen?
today, the item on the agenda basically is designating a detention basin that is located on that Bridge Creek First Edition as a natural area. This was a request that came forward to the engineering department and then on to the Parks Department from the developer Mooney Engel. Chapter 52 of the code allows for designated natural areas. As the weed official for the city, under that code, I review these designations, and one of the items that has come forward with this basin is the drainage area that it provides for. It's extremely wet. The conditions have not been conducive to maintaining it. So one of the things that we talked about was being able to provide a waterway seating, convert it into that natural state, which basically provides it as a no-mow area. I do want to say that no-mow does not mean no maintenance. There would still need to be the provided maintenance of weed control. Those type of activities would still need to take place in it. The latest area that I can recall that we did something like this would be the Skogman Addition off of Boyson Road, adjacent to the Boyson Trail. There's an area behind the subdivision that was turned over to the city. Basically, we went or had the developer go in, seed that area with some waterway, grasses, those type of things, and converted it, and then designated that as basically a no-mow natural area. So this would be basically the same concept as what we did in that area.
So then the lot will be dedicated to the public, or is it still?
Well, it will. The basin itself will be turned over to the city.
Right.
Eventually.
Okay, yeah.
So it would become the
It will
city's
be
to
owned
maintain.
by the public, by the city.
Yes,
And then, so then we're responsible for any maintenance going forward.
that would be correct.
Okay. How many of these areas do we have? Just out of curiosity.
The Squaw Creek Basin is identified as a natural area, no mow, limited maintenance. The one that I described, Boyson. Trying to think, what else? Ryan,
What's the
10th Street, yeah, 10th Street, 29th Avenue through there, that.
It's not for use.
The basin, basically what was the borrow pit basin that we seeded a year ago to prairie pollinators, that would be basically a no-mow natural area.
What's the benefit to the city or the public in general of us taking this over and maintaining it?
Go ahead, Mike.
So this is an outlot that's a detention basin. So one way or another, we're going to get this because it's not a wet basin. So the issue is because there's so much water, so you can kind of see from this image, there's standing water that's coming into this basin, and even with that dry weather that we've had minus yesterday, the basin has not dried. And so for us to try and take our lawnmowers out there and mow, it's not going to happen. And so what we want to do is plant it with natural species where there's less maintenance. We're not having to go out and mow it all the time. And like Mike said, that it's still not maintenance free, but it's less. We're not having to mow it.
You're saying because it's not a wet basin, we would get it anyway?
Yes.
Because that's our policy?
Yes.
Okay.
And those dry basins are mowed and maintained,
Yeah, but this one won't need to be.
and this
It'll
one
less
won't be with that
maintenance.
designation.
Okay, I think it's good to bring all that out so everyone understands what we're doing here and what our policy has been, it's good to educate everyone. Yes?
Yeah, I had the same question you did. I just want to ask, if there were to be flooding in the basements of any of the houses contiguous to that, are we then responsible?
So like any basin that we have, there's minimum low openings that are set for all those. And so there would be, you can see the 48-inch culverts that go underneath Winslow Road. Based on the water overtopping Winslow Road and having those pipes blocked, the engineer that designs it actually puts an elevation that the houses have to be higher than that elevation. So as they get built, they have to be higher than that elevation.
So there shouldn't be any flood, that shouldn't happen then, you're
Correct.
saying? Okay.
It's acting the same way whether it's tall grasses and plantings that's out there versus being mowed. It's performing the same duties. It's just less maintenance or different type of maintenance that the city would have to perform. And so, some of them we do get complaints if there's standing water. Everybody wants it maintained a different way, and so that's why we're bringing it before the city council so that you guys understand what we're proposing here.
Yeah, I guess if it's our policy, then that's fine, but I don't really think that there's a benefit. I mean, it seems like there could be a critter issue. It's weird. It's not like the public can use it. It's sandwiched around this private development, but looks like it's one of those, yay us, we get it.
Mike, what is that street? Can you give us, I'm still drawing a blank as to where this is. This is Winslow.
So this is Winslow Road. This is
Excelsior's to the left.
There's Rolling Glen right here. So in this picture, so this is the same basin right here. So here's Lau Park to give you an idea of how much area. So it's 100 acres that drains through that detention basin. So there's just a lot of off-site that drains through it, and that's why it can't dry. All those field tiles, sump pumps, everything that's flowing into it.
So who owns it now?
The developer.
Mooney
developer.
Angle.
The developer, Mooney Engel.
But they're trying to get it accepted by the city, and so they keep trying to get it so that we can mow it, and it stays wet that they can't get it even with all this dry weather that we've had. So ultimately, because it's platted that way, it's going to become the city's just like any other subdivision.
So when we review a final plat or when a development proposal comes before us, they're required to provide drainage and detention. And so those basins are identified on a final plat as an outlot, and there's a note on it that says to be dedicated to the city upon completion. And so generally what happens is when all the lots are sold and the basin is brought back to the condition that we will accept it so that we can maintain it, then we'll accept it, and it's all in the agreement that's approved with the final plat. We just don't accept it until development's occurred and the maintenance schedule, the lot is to the point where we can maintain it easily. Generally, it's mowable, but we've moved into so we're going to get that regardless.
They still want those.
Per the agreement we have with them.
Yeah.
It's a dedication as a part of the final plat. The question they're asking us is, can we just do it in a different manner than we've done so it's not being mowed and we put it into a natural state? And I think we're looking at doing this elsewhere just because it's a maintenance issue for the city to have to go out and mow the basin. So,
Yeah.
Anyway,
I think-
did that clarify or not?
I think we get it. I think the question that I'm kind of seeing up here is, this is like a lot of other policies that we have. Is it time to review this policy? That there's no access or use to the public. This is really providing green space to those homeowners, which is great. But should there be different parameters for accepting these basins and maintaining them, or should it be their association, or so I don't know. I'm willing to be educated on it all, but I think that's what I'm kind of seeing up here is it time to maybe review the policy instead of just saying, well, that's always been our policy. So, but
We can certainly look at that, but there is no homeowner association for this type of, and that's
maybe there should be. Is what I'm
Yeah,
saying.
and I think that's a
Yeah.
much broader conversation.
Because it really
Opposed
belongs
to
to the
this-
neighborhood. It
this
provides
one.
some sort of a benefit to the neighborhood.
Yeah,
And-
that kind of conversation would need to be had and applied into the future of, because we've already got signed agreements.
No, I'm not saying we do anything retroactively here.
Yep.
I'm saying maybe it's worth reviewing the policy going forward. Yes.
I would concur,
Mayor
because
Pro
I
Tem.
don't understand why we're taking undevelopable land and turning it into our responsibility, so,
Adding cost.
yeah, again, on a larger scope, I would like to revisit that in a big way, because I hear what you're saying, but I don't agree with that, so.
Okay, but for anyone else, yes.
I just,
Brent,
on
Mr. Brent.
the opposite side of that, what everybody brings up is the fact that if that doesn't go back to the city and that stays owned by the developer, more than likely, once they're done building out there, and who knows what happens with the development company, that doesn't get maintained at all, and it turns into
Correct.
an area that is an eyesore.
And I don't
or a
think
blight
anybody's
and-
suggesting that. We're suggesting that maybe as part of the plating process, there, if that is really undevelopable, maybe there should be a association put in place, like many neighborhoods have, to
yeah.
take care of it.
Yeah.
I mean,
Everybody's asking to get educated about why we have it and make sure we understand
I think that's part of why
we're doing it.
I think
Okay.
that's part of why we get them back at the end, is so that they are maintained and not, wild growth out there or whatever. Because if that could happen.
Well, and so to
That
that,
does happen.
where I moved from, there's a wet basin, but it was problematic, and the developer went bankrupt and didn't live in the state. And so, to your point, right, that's difficult. But when I reached out to Lon as a resident of that neighborhood years ago, he mentioned some options that we could do in terms of having the city assess a tax quarterly or something to the people of our development, to help pay for the maintenance or something of that nature. And perhaps that is, because nobody wants the blight and the eyesore, I agree, but I don't think that the whole city through taxes should have to pay for that benefit that, becomes green space for that development. So I do think there might be some other solutions we can look at. I would like to review that policy for future tracts of land and how we handle those.
And this may not have really been a big deal when there wasn't a lot of development, but now, we have got subdivision after subdivision, and at some point, it starts, every one of them has something like this, and they all have basins now. So, I don't know, I think it's good to have the discussion, and we may end up exactly where we are, but it's good to have the discussion and make sure that, I think for all our policies, after, so many years, we can't just keep saying, well, it's always been our policy. We have to see if it's still relevant and makes sense for today. And so I think we should be reviewing all our policies periodically. And maybe the
If I
staff
may.
does that internally and we just don't hear about it, but.
This is part of a broader discussion related to how the city deals with development, and one of the projects that I've had them all working on is actually going through and running theoretical subdivisions through different communities around the Cedar Rapids metro area to see how they line up side by side as far as what those communities are doing to recover their expenses, what they're assuming, what they aren't assuming. So we do plan on bringing that back to council. We're just still working on some data gathering for that.
Good. Okay. But I think, bringing it back to this particular property, the policy is what it is at this point. And so, anyone have any further questions or any comments? Oh, yes, Mr. Draper.
I have a comment, not on this, but concerning parks. I've been making a lot of rounds, and I've never had so many compliments on Law Park and the entertainment we've had out there and everything going on. George Law would be very proud, Mike. So we've had a great year out there, and a lot of people. And I know the parks guys got to work hard, but
Definitely become a regional amenity, so good job. Let's see. Okay, so that was under parks. Any further comments or questions on that? There will be a vote on on Thursday to accept that natural area. Okay? Okay, thanks, Mike. Engineering. Mr. Barkalow.
All right, so items 1, 2, and 3 are all related. So this is the ordinance removing the uptown signs and signposts that are faded and you can't read, or the 9-hour parking that's 8 to 5. So I didn't include the entire packet in this council's packet. You got it last time. We're recommending that you suspend the rules and go ahead and do the third reading at the same time, if you're willing, so that we can get moving on removing some signs.
Most happy to do so.
I don't think you'll get much argument on that one. Or any argument. Is there anyone who has a concern about that, or yes?
I'll
Renee?
vote no to fast track it, but I will
Okay.
vote in the affirmative to have it done. I'm sure I'll
Okay.
be the only no vote. I just don't believe in doing that.
Okay. Other questions? Comments? Okay.
All right, so the next item, we had the public hearing and the award of the contract to SAK for our slip lining project. Now we're approving the contract and bond with SAK. So they were the low bid at $157,657.25. So we're recommending accepting that contract. Work shall be completed no later than October 25th of 19 with $300 per day in liquidated damages.
Okay, questions? Comments? Okay, number 5.
So number 5, we were able to put together an HMA program. So the streets on there are Linview Drive, West 8th Avenue to Alpine Road, Dry Creek Lane, west of Linview Drive, Indian Creek Road, east of 10th Street to 25th Avenue, Brockman Avenue, 24th Street to 26th Street, Dunn Avenue from 44th to 48th, 8th Avenue, 44th to Walmart, 44th Street from 675 44th to 850 44th, and Lucor is basically the bad section from where we stopped doing the improvements to where Skogman is doing the current improvements out there right now, so that's all up to par. So I'm sure you have received a few complaints about some streets with the bad winter that we had. With public service only able to do so much with the manpower that they have. Talking with LL Pelling, who will be our likely one and only bidder, they likely will get to maybe 10% of this year before winter, just because they already have a booked schedule. But this way, we're getting it on this year's oil prices instead of next year's. There's a chance that they could be on a project that either gets delayed or they get it done early and they could get more done. But the more we can get done, the better.
So this is this year and next year?
Right now, there's only $250,000 of a project next year, so we'll have to work through that during the CIP and budget process. Originally, when we approved the CIP, there was a CIP levy, and that did not get approved when we went through budget. That was $750,000 of the $1 million project. We were able to have some reserves from last year, and then we took some money out of the light pole program to pay for the rest of it so that we could get some streets fixed.
Yes, Mr. Jensen?
So the one that jumps out at me is probably Lucor, with all the work we did, and Skogman. What is the time? Skogman, they're going to work on that in August or September?
It's actually under construction right now.
Under construction now?
Yep.
I mean, so if I were to pick one, I'd probably consider prioritizing Lucor, just so we can say that entire road project is now done and
Yep.
in
First,
good
we got to
shape.
get the
So-
bids. So
Huh?
first we got to get the bids. This
I
is just the
understand.
start of it.
But, again,
Get it done to where the county came in and did their,
yeah.
then we're done with it.
Then then we can say Lucor is completely done. Okay.
Other comments or questions? I think I've mentioned to you a couple times that I do hear about 29th Avenue, west of 10th Street.
Yeah, and Public Service does have that on their work program.
Okay, that's good to know. Okay. If there are other questions on that one, we will move on to number 6.
All right, so number 6, we had a petition filed to add additional speed limit signs and a speed transition area at the intersection of Echo and Albernet Road. There's a conditional use permit that was issued for the school site where that intersection will become a temporary 4-way stop until the full roundabout gets built. We have submitted our application for up to $500,000 for the roundabout. So at this time, we're not recommending doing any further changes. Let's do these changes first, see how things go, and then we can make further modifications as needed. So the official TAC recommendation is to proceed with the existing programs that are already in there. And then as we do the full roundabout design, we'll look at the speed transition zones. For example, I know it's 55 on Echo, so we probably need to have a transition that way as well. So we'll have to look in all directions, and then the police department will continue doing enforcement as they can.
Okay.
This did go out to both the original requester and all the petitioners, so they received this information, and they were notified that they can come on Thursday and address council if they would like.
Yes, ma'am.
I have a question. So Sue, the petitioner, is in my ward, and we actually a year or two ago, something else came up related to this. And then we got a correspondence from the gentleman who lives out there as well, I believe, but he's on some traffic board or Cedar Rapids something or other.
He's a City of Cedar Rapids traffic engineer.
Yeah, which I'm imagining he's going to implode when he reads this. Do we mail him something like this? Because it kind of trumps what he's asking. No. Okay.
He didn't do the work and didn't get a petition, so.
Okay. That's true. Good point. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Other questions or comments? Number 7.
All right, number 7 is approving change order number 3 with Price Industrial regarding the Highway 13 and Hennessy Parkway traffic signal and turn lane improvements. So we put out a portable dynamic message sign because we were having a lot of queuing at peak hour traffic, so to help prevent some rear end collisions so that police and fire can do other things besides respond to accidents out there. So as far as I know, there have not been any accidents, but this is just a precaution so that we help to prevent them.
Yes, sir, Mr. Jensen.
On this particular one, excuse me, on this particular area is probably where I've gotten a few comments, especially when I was at the park last Saturday and a couple other times, that people are asking me, why are the pylons, and again, I said I'm not the engineer on the project or the company doing the project, but why are the pylons on the south side of Highway 100 on 13 so far south where they start restricting the traffic?
Just because you don't want to try and do that transition in the intersection. So you want to go ahead and do that transition before you actually get to the intersection. Otherwise, it adds more confusion.
Okay, well, I understand that part, but it still seems like it's quite a ways up that hill. So,
Yeah, we have to follow the
that's
DOT,
why,
yeah.
okay, I understand that part of the explanation, but, I just tell them, I said, they're the experts on it, and I defer to their judgment, so I go.
We have a standard based on the speed limit of how long that transition has to be.
Okay.
So it's about safety of the workers, how long the transition has to be. There's site visibility, all that stuff.
So all that stake, okay.
Yep.
That helps out. Thanks.
Anyone else? Okay, thank you. Number 8.
So number 8, so the area to the north of 35th is where the new school is going to go in, and so they're building the full width of 35th Avenue, and so we got Mr. Robson to the table so that he can pay for his half, so it's just an agreement between those two. The city will front Mr. Robson's side until he's ready to develop that, and then he'll have to reimburse us for that section. So just a way to, until the courts figure out how we move forward with some other agreements.
Okay, questions on that? Number 9.
So for number 9 and 10, this is the fire station site drainage package. So this is just basically, because we have such a high water table at this property, we need to get it to start draining. We did get 5 bids, with the low bid from Abode Construction. They're the contractor that's doing Irish Drive. They're already on site. It makes sense that they would be the low bid. They don't have to mobilize in, and then they'll already have a storm sewer crew there to do it. So they have a bid of $66,100. It has a late start date of 8/24/19, 30 working days, and $300 per day in liquidated damages.
Discussion?
A lot of disparity in there. 1 and 5.
Questions, comments?
The bid tab was a little different just because it was a lump sum, so you didn't get to see the breakdown of everything, but that's basically when they bid the fire station. It'll be similar to what you saw with Mr. Miller's package, where it's just a lump sum item. They don't break every item down when you do big packages like that. So in this case, it's just a lump sum for everything that goes in there.
Mike, on that, I understand how these late days are established, but $300? Is that enough? I mean, we're talking about delaying a project by other trades, right?
Yeah, if they didn't get it done, it would make it harder to get the footings and stuff in there. Talking with the Abode, it doesn't sound like it's gonna be a problem to get it done.
No concerns. Okay.
If you notice, there's more pavement on 6th Avenue. Their work is mostly done. It's their subs that are working, so.
Right. Nope, understood. Okay, thanks.
Okay. Number 11.
So number 11 is then the bid package for the fire station package. So it has a letting of 8/29/19, a substantial completion date of 8/30/20, a final occupancy of 10/1/20. There's liquidated damages of $1,000 per day, and the engineer's estimate is $7.24 million, and then a couple kind of stealing the show for Thursday. But the site plan, so Irish Drive is actually going to be built as a separate project with the rest of the fire station. You can see the building, the parking lot, wet detention basin for some training, and then here's an actual vertical view of the fire station.
Who will take care of the wet detention? I'm just kidding.
The city.
They'll be out there cleaning it out.
Can we gift that? Can we gift that away?
Yeah. Will there be fish in it?
I don't think it's quite deep enough for fish. It's more for their training when they have their wetsuits on and the big orange or yellow ones, if you've seen those.
Any questions on number 11?
Okay.
Any questions on this or comments?
I'm sure they'll go more into detail on Thursday.
Okay, we'll have a presentation on Thursday. Okay. Okay, if there are no questions, one more item on the agenda that's not marked, which is the final approval of the rezoning for the property at One Research Center. Any questions on that one? Okay, that is all.
Mayor, I've got one item.
Yes, sir.
Just for council, you may have noticed that the League of Cities Conference is in Dubuque this year. So far, Councilman Sternad has indicated some interest in going. Just if anybody else is interested in going, please let Ann know and we can make accommodations.
What's the date of that?
I knew I should have kept it open.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. We can.
Yeah, I can get that to you.
Yeah.
September 26th, something like that?
Oh, yeah, no, that's my birthday. I'm not hanging out there on my birthday.
Okay, other questions or comments?
Congratulate the Indians.
On Thursday,
Just want to congratulate the Indians.
Thursday we will.
They played very well.
Congrats.
Could have easily gone all the way with the thing, so we should be very proud. And we have an all-stater, I understand.
Someday when he makes it big, he'll buy us all something on the beach.
Sure he'll remember you.
Right.
I knew when his dad was a Saluki that he'd make it someday.
Okay, if there's nothing else, then we'll see everyone on Thursday. Thank you for being here.